So a couple years ago, a Harvard professor by the name of Boris Groysberg decided to study star security analysts. So he tracked their performance, he looked at ratings from institutional investors, he looked at their actual ability to make good decisions and predictions about the stock market. And he found that when stars, the very best security analysts in their field, moved to another company, they couldn't maintain their star status. They got dramatically worse. Unless they carried their team with them. The companies that were able to perform a successful lift-out, as Groysberg describes it, and actually hire a whole team, were able to maintain the performance of the stars. And this was incredibly surprising to a lot of Wall Street experts. They believe that the security analyst job is fundamentally a job that's about individual brain power, right? Gathering information, conducting analyses on your own, figuring out what ultimately is the right bet to make. And yet, these stars, who were so good at it, they were supposed to be the best security analysts in the world, couldn't do it effectively without their teams on board. Well, while Boris Groysberg was doing that study, there was another study going on right down the hallway by Robert Huckman and Gary Pisano, also at Harvard. They were trying to figure out how long does it take cardiac surgeons to perfect a new cardiac surgery procedure. And again, this is a highly individual brain power and skill relevant challenge, right? You're going to figure out how to perform a new form of open heart surgery. You're going to deal with robot technology for the first time. This is going to depend on your own smarts and your own dexterity in order to be effective, right? So Huckman and Pisano, what they did was they tracked hundreds and hundreds of cardiac surgeons. And they were trying to find sort of the tipping point. At what point does your mortality rate drop and you actually master this new procedure? Well, they really struggled to find it, because these cardiac surgeons never reached it. They actually just maintained the same mortality rates when they did their first procedure, their 10th procedure, their 30th procedure. Even after 200 procedures, they still had the same average mortality rates that they had the first time they did it. Unless, and this is another unless that comes back to the security analysts, unless they were performing those previous procedures with the same team over and over. Again, they couldn't take their performance with them. Cardiac surgeons would actually show a decrease in mortality rates at the local hospital that they're practicing in. The more procedures they perform at that hospital, the lower their mortality rate at that hospital. Move them to another hospital, their mortality rate goes right back up, even though they've already mastered that technique. What they've been taken away from is the team of people who know their strengths and weaknesses, who can complement them effectively. And so again, another example of individual stars, highly competent, not actually able to perform without their team. Third example, similar finding comes out in Richard Hackman's studies of intelligence agencies. NSA, CIA, FBI, choose your favorite acronym here in the United States. Turns out there's a 0.86 correlation between the degree of peer coaching that happens in one of those intelligence teams and the ultimate performance of your team in detecting a terrorist threat. Now, 0.86, for those of you who are a little rusty on stats, is a whopping correlation in the social sciences. Nothing like that has, I believe, ever been seen in this field. We're usually dancing at a 0.3 correlation. So it's another example. Again, these people who do really individual, independent jobs need their teams to succeed. Now, there's also a ton of evidence in lots of domains that it's very valuable to have a team together as long as you can to make them maximally effective. NBA basketball teams, Sean Berman and his colleagues show, reach their maximum level of success when they've been together a minimum of 4.5 years. You need the nucleus of a team together for at least 4 years before you've actually maximized your chances of winning an NBA championship. And a lot of that is driven by their ability to coordinate, to anticipate each other's moves, to perfect their routines. Similar findings show up if you study airline crews and accidents. Likelihood of mistakes, errors, and ultimately fatal crashes drops dramatically every time the crew has flown together. So teams are really valuable for individual performance. Keeping teams together longer is valuable for individual performance as well.